In this video, I'm going to be going over the exact step-by-step process of what selling your home to a cash buyer looks like, from the signing of the contract to actually receiving your funds. I currently run Saving KC Homebuyers, and I worked and helped dozens of Kansas City homeowners sell their homes for cash. Stick around to the end. Some of the frequently asked questions when it comes to selling your home for cash. How the closing works with a cash buyer. Who is this for? This is going to be for anyone who is a homeowner who is facing any type of distress. Maybe you're unsure on whether going with a retail listing or to sell directly to a cash buyer. Maybe you have inherited a property or looking for quality expert knowledge on exactly how does this process actually work. You'll get those answers today. The sad truth is you're going to be on your own. When you're not dealing with a licensed agent or a loved one, you're not going to have trusted advice typically. The person that you're going to be working with, they are not obligated to work on your behalf. You're just another number. They might have a pretty smile, fancy logo, things like that. But at the end of the day, you're just a number. And if you don't fit the profile, then they want nothing to do with you. Even after you actually sign the contract, a lot of times you're going to be on your own. You probably won't hear from them until closing, so it's going to leave you wondering exactly what's going on. Is anything getting done? Are we still set to close? I want to go over just a couple terms that I may use during this presentation so that way as they come up, you have a better understanding of exactly what it is that I'm speaking of. Okay, the first one is earnest money, better known as EMD, which is a small amount of money that you pay when you're serious about buying a house, like a deposit, saying like, hey, I'm interested in this. I'm going to give you this money. I'm going to set it aside so that way that you know that I'm serious. The next one is escrow. It's a safe place to hold money, typically a bank account or a trust account where documents and money are held. Then we have something called title insurance. Title insurance is a type of insurance that protects you, the buyer, if someone says they own part of your property. Then we have the settlement statement. A settlement statement is a list of all the costs and monies paid when selling a house. There's going to be two sides of this. The buyer is going to get a version of it, and then the seller is going to get a version of it as well. Prorations. Prorations are partial, meaning just a portion. So for example, if you've lived in a house, this is October of 2024 currently. If you're watching this, you would only pay taxes up until this point of October. Anything from today until the end of the year, the buyer would be responsible for. Closing costs are the extra fees that you pay when buying a house, like the paperwork, the inspections, things like that. Lien is a claim against the property. So liens come in many different forms. A common one is a mechanic's lien. For example, let's say that you had a deck put on the back of your house. You didn't pay the contractor in full. They could put a lien against your house. Typically, and whenever this home is sold, this will have to be resolved before you're able to pass the title on to the new buyer. A mortgage is just a loan to buy a home. Okay, let's go over a quick overview of the process. It starts with the contract signing. Once the contract is signed, you'll immediately, when working with us, you receive a copy to your email, or sometimes we've even mailed them out depending on your particular circumstances. You'll receive a welcome email and our team will begin to reach out to you. Then we'll deposit the earnest money, which signals title to begin the title search. While all of this is going on, we'll typically come out and do an inspection, a final inspection if needed. And this just really depends on the property's condition. So for example, if we come out to the property prior and we notice that, okay, maybe the roof is older than both of us had anticipated or has stated, or maybe I see a crack in the foundation or something like that, we'll schedule a contractor to come out, take a look at that, make sure that nothing is going to be a budget buster, get an accurate quote, so that way we can move the process forward. The next piece is going to be the closing document review. At this point, we're going to go over all the documents that are going to be needed for closing. So we're going to go over the settlement statement. We're going to go over the title commitment, things like that, just to make sure that everything is in order so that when the closing day comes, which is the next step, we'll be able to move forward and nothing will stop us. And then finally, closing day. When closing comes, you come in or receive a mobile notary. A lot of times people like to sign online as well, which can be done. And at that point, as long as we sign prior to 12 noon, you'll receive your funds the same day. The signing and paperwork. Traditionally, the paperwork is fairly simple. It's not as long and complex as the state contract, which is 16 pages. Our contract is like 4 pages. It's very condensed, very packed with the information that we need specifically for the type of transactions that we do. Some of those paperwork and contracts that we use are the purchase contract. This is just a standard contract that says that, hey, we're buying this property and we're buying it as is. This is when we plan on buying it. This is how much we're going to put down. This is when we plan to close. What'll happen if title is not clear? Things like that. All of that will be in the standard contract. Then we have something called seller disclosures. This is a component that the seller fills out that just lets the buyers know in advance, like, hey, this is everything that we know about the property. We just want to let you know up front. And then this is a new piece that we just recently implemented, and that is the cybersecurity notice. Really is a document that makes you aware of all of the tricks and schemes and scams that are out there, where as we are going through this closing process that you need to be aware of, so someone doesn't get your information, that you don't give it away unknowingly, and that they are able to take your funds at the closing. The next piece is, which is not always needed, which is a post-occupancy agreement. This simply states that after we purchase the property from you, we are allowing you to stay in a property additionally for a certain amount of time. And at the end of that time, you'll vacate. And if you do not vacate on time, then certain things will happen, such as maybe I believe it's like $100 a day for like a week and a half or something like that. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but it just simply states what'll happen after the closing and we take possession. And then the release of information, which we don't do, the actual title company does this. And it's basically saying that they are able to go out on your behalf and get information that will be needed in order to close, such as payoff of mortgages, liens, taxes, information like that. Then you'll receive a copy of this paperwork by email typically. We're currently working on an app where all of this paperwork will be held and you'll be able to see it 24 hours a day. Step 2, the team introduction. The first thing that happen is our care team will reach out to you typically within 24 hours. The whole point of the care team is to walk you from the contract signing to the closing. So any questions and paperwork that'll come up, they'll help assist you with it to make sure that it's done correctly and on time. Title and escrow rep. This is the person that will actually be doing the title search on your property to make sure that the underwriting process, making sure that we're able to pass the title from you to us in time. You'll also receive the representative's contact information, both the care team member and the title company rep. You'll receive their information, their name, their phone number, their email, and the hours that they work. Some of the basic information that the title company is going to need, depending on the type of transaction that we're going to be doing, it includes just your government ID, the mortgage payoff if there is one, or release of lien, HOA information, forwarding address, social security number, and taxpayer identification if it's a company that we're dealing with and not an individual. Then the spouse and co-owner information, lien payoff information, judgment payoff. If you receive the property and maybe this is during the estate sale, during the probate process, we're going to need the death certificate, probate documentation, inherited final decree, or sometimes we'll need a affidavit of heirship or a trust documentation. I know a lot of this stuff is going to be foreign to you. Don't worry. It doesn't apply to everyone, but I just wanted to go over some of the information that's going to be needed that's pretty standard on a lot of the type of transactions that we do. If you're in foreclosure, we're going to need the foreclosure payoff amount, the lender contact information, short sale approval letter, and short sale contact information. If this information is not available for any of the aforementioned items, don't worry. The title company this is their primary job to go out and get that information on your behalf. Step 3, escrow and title search. Earnest money deposit. It starts with that. After the contract is signed, within 48 hours, we'll deposit the earnest money into escrow. We'll receive a receipt of it. Then this validates the contract that we both signed. Without this, we really don't have a leg to stand on. Once that money is deposited, it truly opens escrow at that point. Step 4 is clearing title. So this happens in 3 stages. The first step is the title search itself. It roughly lasts about 3 to 8 days, depending on the complexity of the property that we're dealing with. It really just checks for the property ownership and claims against it. Once that is completed, we begin the second step. Well, the title company begins the second step, which is resolving the issues that were found during the title search. Maybe there are additional errors that we're unaware of, or there's a lien against the property that needs to be resolved prior to. They'll find out all that information. They'll communicate that with you and decide how we're going to move forward at that point. Once all of that is resolved, then title insurance is issued. The final inspection, this typically happens before closing. Like we'll say roughly around 24 hours prior to closing. We'll come back out to the property. We'll just confirm that the last time that we've seen the property, that it is still in that current state. Document review. Okay, so now the earnest money has been deposited. Some time has passed. The title insurance has been issued, and we're getting close to actually closing this transaction out, the sale of your home. So the first step that is going to happen is you're going to review the settlement statement and the closing documents. During this process, we'll go over it together because I know a lot of this language you're unfamiliar with. Our team will go over that with you just to make sure that the basic information is correct, like your name, address, your bank account information, your forwarding address. All of this information is correct. If there are any issues, it goes to step 2, which is going to be the correction phase. We'll send it over to title, let them know of any and all of the issues that have come up at this point. We'll wait to hear back from them. They'll send those corrections back, and then we move into stage 3, which is the approval. You'll give your final okay, like, hey, everything looks good. Let's move forward. Step 7, closing and payment. During this phase is really what everyone is looking forward to. It's time to get paid, right? During this portion, you'll show up to the title company at the date and time that you picked. Once all the documents are signed, you'll get your money right away. And as I said prior to, this typically happens within 24 hours. Same day usually, if all parties have signed all of the paperwork prior to 12 noon Central Standard Time. After you sign, you'll receive a copy of the final closing documents. Then post-closing, you'll receive confirmation of your proceeds, either by email and typically by email and phone. So we'll let you know, hey, we received word from title that your funds have been transferred to you. Please make sure that you have received them and let us know. We'll send you out a closing gift as well. We like to deliver that in person if possible. And then a testimonial or review we typically ask from you if and only you feel that the service that we have provided to you is of service and has been a benefit to you and your family. And that's pretty much the end of the entire process right there. I want to move on to some of the frequently asked questions that we get. The first one is, what am I responsible for? Because it sounds like you're pretty much doing everything. The first thing that we are asking for is open, honest, and transparent communication from you. In order for this to go as smoothly as possible, we're going to need to communicate. So we're going to need you to respond quickly to our communications. In this third point, the decision making. We're going to give you a lot of information, but the ultimate decision is going to be yours. A lot of time will not be given to you, but don't worry. I don't want you to feel like you're rushed. Take your time, however much time that is, but know that in order for us to stay on schedule, some things will need to be made very quickly, some decisions. Providing escrow and title agent with personal information. This is very important. We're not going to ever ask for any personal information from you. We're not going to ask for your bank account information. We're not going to ask for your routing number. We're not going to ask for your driver's license ID. We may ask for you to show us a picture of your ID, but we're not going to ask for a copy of it. That is the title agent's responsibility, and they have a special portal that you're going to input this information in to make sure that your information stays secure during the whole process. But pretty much we do handle all the heavy lifting so that you don't have to. This is a process that we go through pretty regularly, and we know that you're unfamiliar with it, so we try to make it as easy as possible. How will I stay updated if you're handling everything? The first one is our care team. As new information is available, that's a typo there, and or needed, they'll communicate that with you. The second thing is I'll be reaching out to you at least once a week, typically every Monday from the time you sign the contract to the time we close. And in the very near future, you'll be able to find all this information in the app. Are there any closing costs I pay? There are none. There are absolutely none. No closing costs, no hidden fees, and no commissions. However, you are responsible for paying any back taxes, liens, or outstanding mortgage balances, but you don't need to pay them before closing. Those can be paid at closing from your proceeds. This will be deducted from your proceeds at closing. What if I live out of state? This is not a problem. We can typically handle this one of two ways, either by an electronic signature, which you must have a webcam and a valid ID. Then a lot of the older clients that we work with, they don't like using e-signature, so we'll do a mobile notary. In that event, you'll still need to have a valid ID to do so. What happens if something bad is found during the title search? Most issues that arise during the preliminary title search can typically be resolved before the scheduled closing date. Our standard paperwork allows for a 45-day closing period, though we aim to close sooner. What happens if issues aren't resolved by the closing deadline? Well, this ties into the question right before, and the purchase contract automatically extends the closing date by 30 days if the title insurance cannot be issued by the original deadline. Now, in the event that it takes to go longer than this, which in our experience rarely happens, then we can sit down and determine if it's something that we both want to move forward on. Will you cancel the contract after a bad inspection? No, it is unlikely that we'll cancel the contract due to a bad inspection. However, it does happen for the following reasons. Repair costs no longer make it profitable for us, and we'll let you know that immediately. This is not something that you're going to have to wait until 15 minutes before our closing and tell you that, hey, I need you to come down $50,000 if you want this thing to close. We're never going to do that to you. The same honest and transparent communication that we ask from you, you can expect that from us as well. We are not using the inspections as a negotiation tactic in order to get more money out of you. How long does it take to close? It really does depend. I don't like using that phrase, but it's the truth. So it's a play on the first one. How much time do you need? For example, I need 6 months because I need to take care of X, Y, and Z. Or how much time do you have? Okay, I only have 12 days, right? In any regard, we can help you. But on average, if everything is going smoothly and there is no rush, we're looking at about 21 days in order to get the title clear, get on the title company's calendar in order to get a closing date. But we can close in as little or as few as 10 days if needed in very, very rare cases. So we're looking at the timeline of a minimum of 7 to 10 days, but there is no maximum on when this can close. As I stated before, if you need 30 days, 60 days, 90, 120, you need 6 months. This is something that we can talk about and negotiate and put in the contract. The situation is going to depend on how long this is going to take. And that's really up to you. So whether you're relocating, you're retiring, the property is in foreclosure, it's going through a tax sale, you've gone through bankruptcy, maybe there's some potential fraud that the title company has found. Clouded title just meaning that it's unsure on who is actually the owner of it or something that is preventing us from actually closing. Maybe there's an open probate case that is going on as well, or a lien that has a lot of loose ends to it. Can I adjust the closing date? You can adjust the closing date. In most cases, that can be adjusted with ample notice. Some things are kind of set in stone, but for the majority of things, yes, that can be adjusted. And finally, how long does it take to get my money after closing? The same day in most cases for both wire transfers and checks. If everyone has signed by noon Central Standard Time, which is in the Chicago time zone, we can close and you can receive your funds same day. So that pretty much wraps everything up on exactly what it's like to go through the closing process with a cash buyer. I really hope that this information has been of use to you. If you are interested or have any additional questions beyond what I've presented today, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. You can reach me at area code 816-429-2900. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day.